Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the all-new Renault Espace. This is the 6th generation of the Espace, and to be honest, I didn't expect to be here right now in this car, because last year production stopped of the 5th generation of the Espace and Renault didn't announce a successor. So basically everybody thought it was done for the Espace, because the Espace is an MPV and nobody likes an MPV nowadays. Everybody wants an SUV. But then, at the beginning of 2023, Renault did announce a successor, and here we are in the all-new Renault Espace. And as you can see, it's clearly not an MPV anymore, even the Renault Espace has turned into an SUV. Now in this video I will tell you everything you need to know about this all-new Espace. I will show you the interior, I will show you the exterior, and I'm going to tell you what it's like to drive in this all-new SUV Renault Espace. So I don't know about you, but for me it does take a little bit of time to get used to the fact that the Espace is now an SUV. Because the Espace has been around since 1983, so for a long time, and for 5th generations the car has always been an MPV. It was the king of MPVs. It's a legend of a car, and especially like the 1st generation is such an icon. It's such a roomy car. But it's not that big actually, but it's just a very spacious car because, well, probably because there's not a lot of safety equipment on board. But I would even go as far as to say that the 3rd and the 4th generation of the Espace are also pretty cool. To be honest, I didn't think they were cool when they came out when I was younger. I think they were quite boring, but now they're disappearing from the roads. And whenever I see one, it makes me really happy. Especially now that the MPV hype is completely over. It's all about SUVs nowadays, and this all-new generation of the Espace makes that really clear. Now, if you're familiar with the Renault Austral, this car may also look very familiar to you. This is an all-new Espace, but the car is basically a stretched-out version of the Austral. The Austral is also a pretty new SUV from Renault, but this car has the exact same front-end design, so this car has the exact same headlights, it almost has the same bonnet, it has the same bumpers. The only difference on the front-end design with the Austral and this Espace is the grille, because the grille on the Espace has a bit of a different design with vertical slats, and on the Austral you get a block design in the grille. Now, to be honest, I think Renault should have called this car the Grand Espace, just like they called the bigger Scenic the Grand Scenic. Because this car is basically a bigger Austral, because the design is basically the same, especially from the front end, but the car is just a little bit longer. The car is 4 meters and 72 centimeters long, which makes it a little bit shorter than the previous Espace, which is a little bit weird actually. Usually cars always get bigger, wider, longer, but this Espace is shorter than the previous version. But according to Renault, you do get more interior space, and especially on the 2nd row you get more space. It's like 14 centimeters more of leg room, and I do have to say it is quite comfortable in the back. There's a lot of room for your knees, a lot of room for your head, and what I really like on this car is the panoramic roof. Now, it is an option on this car, you only get it on certain trim levels, but it is a go-to option because it's a massive panoramic roof. It is basically the biggest panoramic roof I have ever seen in my entire life. So if you can spend some extra money, definitely go for the panoramic roof. Now, just like the previous generation, you can still get this car as a 7-seater. That's a big reason why a lot of people buy an Espace, because they got a lot of kids. I do have to say the 3rd row isn't that amazing. I certainly don't fit there. I don't think any adult will fit there. And to be honest, I don't think kids up to 10 years and older won't fit there. It's only made for really small kids, which is a bit of a letdown, because in previous generations you could actually fit in the 3rd row. In some generations, even if you were an adult, but certainly not in this car. But in the 3rd row you do get 2 USB-C ports, and you also get 2 cup holders on either side, so at least there's that. Now, the luggage capacity on this car is pretty decent. If you're using all the seats, obviously the luggage capacity is a little bit limited. You got 195 liters, but if you put all the seats down you get a massive space. I believe it's like 1800 liters of luggage capacity, so that's pretty good. Now, what I also really like in the back are, well, first of all, the 2 USB-C ports, but also the soft cushions that you can get in the back. Because it almost feels like you're driving a very luxurious German car when you're sitting in the back with the soft cushions. Now, I believe you only get the cushions in the top level of the Espace, the top spec, which is this version, the iconic version. Now, I'm not sure about all the different trim levels in all countries, but I believe there are in most countries only 3 trim levels that are the Techno version, which is the base version. Then you get the iconic version and the Alpine version, they are both basically the top level. Now the Alpine version is the extra sporty version. It doesn't have more power, but it does look a little bit extra sporty because the car has different wheels and also black design elements all around the car, like a black grille and black finish all around the windows. And also there's a different color, I believe it's called gris schist. It has like a gray matte finish, and you also got a lot of Alpine logos all around the car. Now the back-end design of the Espace is different compared to the Astral, because the Astral has like a sloping roofline, which makes the car look a little bit more sporty, but the Espace has a continuous roofline which just drops down at the ends. The tail lights have a very typical Renault design with the C shape, and in the middle of the trunk, Espace is written out in full. The E has a very different color because this car is using the E-Tech hybrid powertrain. You can also see that because this car has the E-Tech powertrain label on the back of the trunk as well. So let's talk about the powertrain. The car only uses a 1.2 3-cylinder producing 130 horsepower, but the car also has 2 electric motors, bringing the total system output up to 200 horsepower. Now because of the 2 electric motors, the car has instant torque, so the car is actually decent fast. I wouldn't say fast, but it is fast enough. It will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 0 to 62 miles an hour in 8.8 seconds, which is fast enough for a car like this. Now if you're just driving along with the car, sometimes the engine just suddenly stops and will only use the electric motors, because this car can actually do a lot of miles just driving on electric power. And according to Renault, if you're staying in the city, you can do up to 80% of all your driving pure on electricity. Now you might be wondering where does electricity come from, because this car doesn't have a plug and it doesn't have a really big battery pack. It only has a small battery pack that can recharge using one of the electric motors that can work as a generator. So when you're slowing down the car, you will automatically generate electricity. Now the suspension setup on the car is pretty soft. It's not super soft, but it's definitely not hard. So you get a very comfortable ride, and that is what you're looking for in a family SUV. Then let's talk about the interior of the car. Now just like the exterior design of the car, the interior design is basically identical to a Renault Astral. So you get the same dashboard with the same open art display. And that's what Renault calls, well, basically the infotainment system. You get a big screen in the center here that is positioned vertical. And you also got a big horizontal screen in front of you. They're both 12-inch, except if you go for the base level version, then you get a 9-inch smaller screen here in the center. The infotainment system runs Google Automotive, or actually Android Automotive, which is the infotainment system from Google, which is almost the best infotainment system out there. It's tied with the infotainment system from Tesla. It's a very fast infotainment system with a lot of compute power, and it's always a pleasure to work with this system because again, it's very fast, especially if you're like using Google Maps, which is the default navigation system on this car, because it's a Google app and the car is filled with Google apps. But if you're using Google Maps, you can really notice the compute power on this car, because the infotainment system doesn't need any time to zoom in or out, even if you're doing it really quickly. Now obviously the car is very practical also here in the interior, so there's a lot of space to put your stuff. Especially the glove compartment is very practical. I believe it stores up to 6 liters of space. It's very big. And you do get 2 USB ports here in front of you, also a 12-volt outlet, 2 cup holders, and there's this handle here, which looks a bit odd. It looks like a handle from like a Boeing 777, but you can use this to rest your arm here, so it's more easy to operate the screen with your steady hands when you're resting it here on the armrest. So that's it for this video on the all-new Espace. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that like button, and then I'll see you in the next video.